My fellow Everywhereicans, hello, and welcome to the second State of the Trip address. A time to take a break from the rigors of the road to reflect on the happenings of this adventure, as well as a chance to see if I still remember how to tie a tie. I think we're good. Currently, I'm working furiously to prepare for the next chapter of my trip, riding through 16 different countries in Central and South America, trying to make sure everything is ready, from visas and insurance to vaccinations and route decisions, is nearly as exhausting as being a full-time traveler. I must confess that I really don't love this part of the journey. But you know something? You know something? Not only are we going to Argentina, Tom Harkin, but we're also going to Barranquilla, Colombia, and Salvador, Brazil, and we're going to Tocopilla, Chile, and we're going to Costa Rica, and we're going to Panama, and Padilla, and Monterrey, and Diamantina, and then we still have some places left in the U.S. So we'll go to Bakersfield, and Springfield, we'll go to Pasadena and Catalina, we'll go to Davenport, we're going to go to Shreveport, we're going to go to Reno and Winslow, Oklahoma, La Paloma, Wichita and Tulsa, we're going to go to Houston, Colorado, Waterloo, Amarillo and Oskaloosa. We'll go to Dodge City, Cedar City, Kansas City. Any other place you can put a city behind, we will go to it. We will go to Texarkana in Louisiana, Faraday in Santa Fe. We will go to Grand Lake, Crater Lake, through the Lake of Fire if we have to. You better believe we're going to Winnemucca, and then we're going back to Nebraska, where it'll probably be time for us to take a shower. Yeah! Sorry, I don't know what just came over me there. I hope you will pardon that outburst. But before we go to all those places, let's talk a little bit about Chapter 2, which is now concluded. You may expect that I have just a few observations. First, let's just make some broad statements about the trip. More than anything else, I continue to be blown away by the generosity extended to me by friends, family, and complete strangers alike. When I first began over 6 months ago now, I thought I already had enough friends. Now there are so many more of you to whom I feel connected. There's no way I can fully express my gratitude. Thank you to all of you, even those who are just silent readers of this account. I hope each of you feel that you are part of this. The longer this trip continues, the less it seems to be about me. So what was Chapter 2? Chapter 2 ended up being a loop around almost all of the eastern North American continent. It began on August 31st and lasted 80 days up until November 19th. During this time, we covered 13,466 miles, bringing our trip total just up over 27,000 so far. We were able to visit 32 of the 92 places mentioned in the song, bringing our total up to now 53 completed. There is no other place as place-rich, as far as the song is concerned, as the eastern U.S. We were able to visit quite a lot of them in Chapter 2. So let's dig into the numbers a little bit. First, just a couple clarifications. When I talk about per-day expenses, that does not include days when I am home. Those have been subtracted from the total number of journey days, so to speak. So even though it is over 6 months since my trip began, I have only traveled for 146 days, and that's the number I will use to calculate per day expenses. Furthermore, the expenses stated only include those which came after my trip began. None of the overhead expenses like buying a motorcycle or all my camping gear, most of which I had, are included in these calculations. In Chapter 2, our total expenses came to $1,819, which is less than $23 per day. This is down just slightly from the $25 per day that we averaged in Chapter 1. This seems like quite an achievement, especially given that much of this chapter was spent in some of the most expensive places in the Western Hemisphere, namely the Eastern United States. My total budget for the trip at the beginning was $15,000, which equates to about $56 per day. Again, we were $23 per day for this last chapter. So having traveled so thriftily for months now, I am well set up to be able to spend more freely in Central and South America, which was pretty much the plan all along. One of the big things that caused us to travel so cheaply was how we spent the night. So our lodging expenses were almost negligible during Chapter 2. In the 80 days, our only expenses were 2 campgrounds, which totaled just $56. In fact, we ended Chapter 2 with 57 straight days that were free, without incurring a lodging expense. And this just warms my heart more than a box full of kittens, as you can imagine. For 48 nights during Chapter 2, we found a place to tent camp for free, and for 33 nights, we were a guest in someone's home. For those of you who provided me lodging, I sincerely hope my odor has now fully dissipated from your abode. During my time in the northeast part of the continent, I spent 21 consecutive nights in the tent, which will surely be the longest such streak of this trip. I kind of learned that that is as long as I should spend in a tent. It was getting a little hard by that point. For food, after averaging just $2.80 per day, crazy, in Chapter 1, our number has now more than doubled in Chapter 2 to $5.68 a day. Some of that might be having a stove now and going out to eat just a little bit more often. So I don't feel a need to apologize for this lavish lifestyle. You know, I'm an American, of course, so I can spend however much I want on food, right? Since being home, I have tried really hard, apparently, to wreck my budget. I think I've spent over $1,200 now since I've been home on trip-related expenses. New bike parts, a new phone, international insurance, and lots of supplies all play into this. With the amount of packages that I'm receiving, FedEx has actually been considering opening up a dedicated supply depot in our backyard. There's just so much to prepare to get this chapter that's coming all ready to go. Still, I feel very confident about the state of our budget. It has taken lots of discipline and many sacrifices to travel so efficiently. Riding past a hotel when it's dark and you're already wet and cold is one of the hardest things I have to do on a day-to-day basis. But those sorts of decisions in the little moments eventually add up to financial stability. At this point, the only thing that could really wreck our budget would be if a second motorcycle is required to complete this trip. I really hope Annie can make it the whole way. So let's move on and talk about the heroine of this story, the incomparable Annie. She continues to soldier on with nary a complaint. There was nothing to fix during Chapter 2, just regular maintenance items. She just barely missed the 60 mile per gallon mark during Chapter 2, averaging 59.89 miles per gallon over the leg. That's up just slightly from the 58 even that we averaged during Chapter 1. I still have lots to do before she is ready for the southward journey. New tire, chain and sprockets, wheel bearings, valve adjustments, and probably a lot of other stuff I'm thinking about. But I continue to be very impressed and very pleased with Annie, so hats off to you, my lady. Her lifetime mileage is now sitting at 49,000, which for a 670cc parallel twin, this may seem a little bit on the high side, but she still doesn't feel like an old bike to me. In fact, all of the incident-free miles almost give me more confidence in her ability to complete this journey. For someone on a budget like mine, I cannot imagine a better vehicle for this experience. So how about Sonic? How's he doing? Not a whole lot to say here. He's still doing great. I think I got him watertight the last time I reprinted him and sealed him when I was home. The rollerblade wheel bearings are still pretty smooth, and I'm just kind of curious. I should probably upgrade them, but I'm kind of curious to see if they will last throughout the whole trip. My new friend in Nashville, Travis, astutely observed that they are the same size as skateboard wheel bearings, and so thanks to him I now have a spare set along with me as well in case they do give out at some point. As far as documentation goes, a quick update there. I have now written on my blog 123,000 words, which is almost twice the length of a typical novel. This equates to 842 words per travel day, or 4.54 words per mile traveled. It's a lot. I don't think I will be able to catch up to the novel War and Peace, which clocks in at 587,000 words. But my number of words has been trending up lately, so I guess time will tell. So what's up next? In a word, south. Chapter 3 will be the longest one of my trip. At the very least, I will be covering 22,000 miles. Though there are only 7 places in South America, they are thoroughly spread out. I will be exploring nearly the entire continent because of this. One of the biggest questions still remaining is whether I will attempt to ride all the way to Ushuaia, the southernmost city in the world, at the very tip of South America on Tierra del Fuego. Doing so would add about 4,500 miles to my route. So, as much as I'd like to do it, it's a tough decision. And I'm not planning to fully make up my mind until I get there. So, let me see if I can put that in perspective using something from Chapter 2 for you. Ushuaia is the exact same distance from the equator as Schefferville, Quebec, which was the northern terminus of our Chapter 2. Schefferville is at 54.8 degrees north, and Ushuaia is at 54.8 degrees south. So imagine going all the way down, you ride, get to the equator, you're then pretty much only still halfway there. South America is huge. There's no way I can fully explain this, how big it is. So how am I doing? I think pretty well. I had a stretch during this last chapter where I was not having a whole lot of fun, but it came and went. Mentally, I still feel prepared and capable of accepting the coming challenge. I continue to learn more about myself, knowing when I need a break or to indulge in a little bit of comfort. Physically, I'm holding up pretty well. At my lowest weight, I was only down about 10 pounds from where I began. Though I do really miss being in good shape. My average day does contain a lot of physical activity, but still I'd definitely say that I'm the worst shape I've been in the last decade. So hopefully climbing up some ancient pyramids and fleeing from Salvadoran authorities will help me recoup some of these losses. So here we are, so much done, so much left to go. I must confess that along with excitement, I do feel a fair amount of trepidation about the coming chapter. It is so much time and so many miles in such unfamiliar places. For the first time, I've been getting all my affairs in order, thinking about the worst case scenario, that this might be my final voyage. Though not fun to ponder, it is a possibility that must be considered. But I must say, I do have full belief that this chapter will be a success. There will surely be some bumps in the road, but none of those have waylaid us yet. If you remember, Alaska loomed large, but we did not even bat an eye. A bear in Idaho was able to steal our sleep, but not our sense of humor. The log roads to Mbabaca doused us in dust, and yet we rode on. Schefferville seemed like an impossibility, but we found new friends and solace in a school bus. Eastern metropolises could not box us in, mountain roads could not shake us from our saddle. Even amongst copious amounts of bubble bath, we still kept our heads above water. Time and time again, we have been given more than we need by people who treat us better than we deserve. So despite what obstacles lie ahead, I will continue to meet each day with an open mind, an open heart, and an open can of beans. I will continue to believe in the motto, in the deed, the glory, and I will continue, apparently, to use 1,000 words when only 100 would do. With that, I will conclude this second state of the trip address. Perhaps my next one will be delivered in Spanish. Once again, thank you for being a part of this wild journey. I promise you, it only gets wilder from here.